Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today I'm going to be doing the Intimidating TBR Tag. I saw this over on Maya's channel. I will link her channel in the description box below, and I thought it'd be interesting and fun to do. And also I thought it'd be a way of me showing a few books that I rarely ever mention, non-science fiction and fantasy for a fairly rare change. There are 9 parts to this tag, and without further delay I'll get straight on to the first part. Question 1 is, what book have you been unable to finish? And that is actually extremely easy because there's only one book within the last decade that I actually literally could not finish and actually had to put down halfway through, and that was Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. This is a great big fat thing. I used to have a copy of it, but I actually got rid of it because frankly that's how much I disliked this book. I got just over halfway, I believe, and frankly the plot and the story just didn't seem to have started yet. Nothing seemed to be happening. It was just like he was writing for the sake of writing, and I didn't understand anything that he was trying to get across, and basically that kind of book doesn't work for me, frankly, so I put it down without a major problem, although I did give it a good chance. The second question is, what book have you yet to read because you just haven't had the time? And there's no particular book for this. This is frankly all of the 100 or so books on the shelves all behind me here that I just haven't got around to reading, purely because I can't read everything that fast. Especially as I buy books at about the same speed I read them, so my TBR will never really decrease. I might be reading them lately slightly faster than I'm buying them, so at the moment it's very slightly decreasing, but frankly I'd have to do that for many years to actually get my TBR pile down. In fact, I do like having a large amount of unread books. It always gives me a nice varied choice of books to read. The third question is, what book have you yet to read because it's a sequel? And this is actually a fairly easy one as such, and that is the latest Expanse book. I have read the first 3. The 4th and 5th book are out in paperback. The 6th is out in hardback but not paperback, and basically that's why I'm not reading them yet, because I don't want to read just one at a time. I want to read them in small bunches at least, especially when the series is designed to be 9 books long, but they're in sort of 3 trilogies, sort of. And this way I can read the first 3 together, then when the 6th book is released next year I can read books 4, 5, 6 together, and then 3 years later, eventually, I can finally read the last 3 books, and then you'll obviously will reread all the previous books. The fourth question is, what book have you yet to read because it's brand new? For this I'm not choosing one that's absolutely brand new. It's been out about a month and a half now, I think, and that is The Last Days of New Paris by China Miéville. The only reason I'm not reading this so far is because frankly it's not in the right format. I believe it is out in paperback, but all my China Miévilles, which are actually just there, are by Pan, and it's not out in Pan yet. I think it will be out in Pan, I believe, sometime next summer, so I've got a bit of weight on my hands, but I've got lots of unread Miéville books anyway, so it's not really a problem. The fifth question is, what book have you yet to read because you've read a book by the same author and didn't enjoy it? And actually this is a fairly easy one, especially if you know certain books that I've read in the last year or two, and that is anything basically by Robin Hobb. As you know, I read the Farseer trilogy many years ago before I started BookTube and really didn't like it. I reread the first book in the Farseer trilogy earlier this year and still didn't like it because frankly I found it really depressing and negative, and it just makes me feel depressed in general reading it. It's really hard to get through, and frankly that's really heavily put me off reading anything else by Robin Hobb, who's obviously a big well-known author. I do however own the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb just over there on my shelf, and I will read that though, because I'm not going to give up on Robin Hobb, not yet. I'll read that trilogy, and if that's as depressing and negative as the other trilogy, then I will officially count Robin Hobb as one that I'm not planning to read ever again. Question 6 is, what book have you yet to read because you're just not in the mood for it? And this is actually an unusual one as such, and that is basically the whole of the fantasy genre, and specifically high or epic fantasy at the moment. At the moment I seem to be in a very heavy science fiction mood, and fantasy, and particular epic fantasy, isn't working for me. I mean, that's why I've put the books by Robert Jordan, the Wheel of Time books, on hold because I was liking them at the time, and that's when I was just going off fantasy at the time. But I will get into fantasy again. You know, this always happens. You know, it's in cycles, of course. So within a year, or probably by the new year actually, I'll be reading fantasy again, and I'll finally read the Wheel of Time books probably. Question 7 is, what book have you yet to read because it's massive? Now, the question doesn't state whether it means massive in terms of a very long page length or in terms of actual physical size. So I'll answer it for both of those. In terms of page length, I actually can't give you an answer because I have a very warped sense of what makes a long book up. As you may know, I mean, I count anything below 400 pages as very small as a start. So my sense of a long book is 1,000 pages plus, frankly. And there really isn't any books that I sort of pull off because of page length. It doesn't mean that much to me. However, because of physical book size, however, there is one that I own that I have pulled off because it's just so large and heavy that I just don't know how to read it properly, and that is The Complete Lioness by Jack Vance. This is a big black special edition version by Gollancz, and this weighs about £4, which I believe is the same as a bag of sugar. So this is extremely thick, and I just don't know how to read it comfortably because it's really heavy, and frankly it will kill my arms to read it. So, but I'll read it eventually. It's just a matter of I need to do a bit of weight training first, frankly. Question 8 is, what book have you yet to read because it was a cover boy that turned out to have really bad reviews? My answer to this is very simple, and that is that I have never bought a book based entirely on the cover. I will choose one edition of the same book over another because of the cover, of course, but I won't buy a book only because of the cover. That would be, frankly, a really stupid thing to do because obviously a lot of books nowadays can have a really nice fancy cover or just generally amazing design, but if the content of the book is rubbish, then I'm wasting a lot of money, and I want good books that I really am interested in. And generally on my shelf I have very few books that are bad to me personally, so this sort of validates my own personal preference for almost ignoring covers to a large degree and going entirely on content. And indeed it's something that I'll always be like, I think. And finally, the last question, question 9, is what is the most intimidating book on your TBR pile? I don't really get intimidated by books as a rule. However, there are two that I haven't read because of what they are, and that is, they also happen to be quite large, the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer and the Divine Comedy by Dante. These are the big Barnes & Noble fancy leather-bound editions. I haven't read these because, frankly, classics are not something I'm good on. I don't know how to read classics, and classics never quite seem to make sense for me. And I don't want to ruin these though, because these are ones I do want to read because of what influence they've had in tons of other modern culture. So I need to wait until I've got to a point where I actually understand classics and understand how to think about them in preparation before I can actually read these two, and then I'll get the most out of them and I won't spoil the experience, which is what I'm paranoid of. You know, I'm hoping to like them and I want to like them. So if I go in with the wrong way of thinking, I will ruin them, which would be a great shame. So with that said, that's it for this tag video. If you want to tell me your answers for these 9 questions, or just one of them, then please leave a comment and we can have an interesting talk about it. All my social media links, as well as links to anything else I mentioned in the video, can be found in the description box below, as they always are. I mean, that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.